You talk about the likes of a Samson, of a Hadi. Samson, the defending champion. Hadi, Derek. Those are the three names that always comes out of everybody's mouth. Then the question is, who else has an opportunity to disrupt?
I think Nick is right in there.
Yeah.
I think if Martin doesn't come in big and comes in hard, he's right in there. If Andrew Jack could put it together, he's right in there. I mean, you got a half a dozen guys right there that could actually do damage.
I'm Dave Palumbo, founder of Species Nutrition. I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work and are backed by science. From my earliest bodybuilding days, I believed in only putting the best in my body. And that lives on in the Species Nutrition line of products. We use only top-of-the-line formulations dosed for maximum results and the best flavoring systems available. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
Live from the world famous Bev Francis Powerhouse Gym, the Mecca. Forget East Coast, West Coast. This is the Mecca of hardcore bodybuilding, and we are so pleased to be joined by not only the owner, but the promoter of the New York Pro, Steve Weinberger, IFBB head judge. Thank you so much for the time. What was this past week like? The New York Pro, always one of the busiest times here at the gym.
It was a great show. It was a great week before because everybody all over the world coming into train, so it was nice to see everybody. Very exciting. I'm ready for like a 3-hour nap. I'm tired.
I thought you were going to 3-week vacation or whatever.
So no, I don't need a vacation. Just a 3-hour nap will do me good. But it was a great show. I was real happy with it. Very successful. It ran beautifully. I have a great crew, great judging panel. Everything was perfect, really.
You know, I just have to ask you take a step back and you just see what this gym was like. Some of the top stars from around the world, competing or not competing, coming here training, but then helping others, helping fellow pros, helping, up and coming amateurs. You see this culture that you've created here at Bev's Gym, and it really coming to life, especially during these big weeks. As a gym owner, as a bodybuilding lifer, what does that mean to you?
It makes me very proud and makes me very happy, and this is what I envisioned 40 years ago, and this is, with a little luck and a little hard work, this is what happened.
Talk about some of the new features. This gym recently underwent an expansion. What can you tell us about not only the expansion, but maybe sort of the rearrangement of this
gym?
Right.
The gym's set up by body parts. We rearranged everything. We added 3,000 square feet. We added a lot of Panado equipment and a lot of new tech equipment. And we still kept a lot of the classic pieces like Classic Icarian. We have a 50-year-old Nautilus pullover that's been completely rebuilt, and a Panada pullover, which is awesome, right next to it. So I mean, we have a lot of equipment. You would never have to wait for a piece of equipment, no matter how crowded it is in the gym, and it's all different variations at all different angles.
Talk to us about generation to generation, right? Hardcore gyms, maybe 15 to 20 years ago, were only seen for bodybuilders,
right.
Or again, the big people, right?
Yes.
You didn't have someone like myself, the average,
right.
quote-unquote average gym goer, and now you have, again, the culture that you built here, pros, big bodybuilders, guys like myself, working
housewives.
Side by side.
We have housewives too. I mean,
yeah.
Part of it is, no assholes allowed. You know what I mean? No banging at the weights, no screaming and yelling. I mean, you've got to train. You got to heavy weights and they got to go down. But I mean, no abusing the weights. Definitely not abusing the people. Respect the people. You don't respect people, you don't stay here. I don't care if you weigh 120 or 320. Everyone gets the same respect.
Let's talk about the New York Pro now.
Mm-hmm.
Separate yourself as a head judge, you being
right.
a bodybuilding lifer and a promoter.
Mm-hmm.
You being so active that day,
mm-hmm.
walking around making sure everything is functioning. You must have that itch, right? That you want to be sitting there judging. What is that day like for you?
Honestly, I do want to be sitting there judging, but there is so many little things that you have to make sure are straightened out before they turn into big things. So I'm running around from the time the show starts to the time the show ends, even after the show ends, and honestly, way before the show starts. I mean, it's just a lot of preparation, and also you're there to put out fires before they become fires.
Right. So let's talk about how many years has it been since you've
been in the show? The New York Pro, that was our 21st year.
Incredible.
Promoting shows, we've been promoting shows since 1987.
So you've seen the whole gamut of how shows have evolved.
I've
right?
seen it all. I mean, I've been around since 1981. I started at the bottom, so I've seen it in every angle and from every angle.
But over the last 4 or 5 years, the conversation again, social media has changed everything in terms of the conversation.
Oh, absolutely. That's why people don't need to go to California anymore. First of all, there's no magazines.
Right.
There's no reason. With the internet, you could be a star in Massachusetts as quick as you can be in Thailand. You know what I mean? And look at all of these media sensations. I mean, one lives in Ohio, one lives here. They got millions of followers, and it doesn't matter.
As shows have progressed, as it's evolved, right? Pro divisions, amateur divisions. Someone like yourself, how do you keep up or stay ahead of the curve in terms of some of the challenges that's presented? Again, so much of the conversation about prize money, about the enhanced experience for a competitor, and you're doing this again. This is a passion for you.
I love it. Yes.
This is something that you truly enjoy doing. But how do you study some of these changes and stay ahead of the curve?
Well, I'm part of the IFBB NPC, so I know things are coming before they come. You know what I mean? Like in discussions. So I kind of am always in the loop and always prepared. And I mean, I'm in a very very good position, and I have to thank Jim Mannion for that, because he put me in that position, and he trusted me years ago, and I would never let that trust down. And he's done a great job with bringing in new divisions.
Right.
The new divisions opened it up for everybody. Even with this new division now with this fit body, a lady with just a good body or a woman with a good body could compete, maybe get the bug, maybe want to put a little more muscle up and move up, or maybe just stay there. And it's the same thing with a guy with physique, If he doesn't want to put more muscle on, he can stay in physique, or he can move up to classic, or take it all the way up, you know what I mean? So there's room for everyone here, and that made the sport really big, and it really grew.
Let's talk a little bit more about, again, the IFBB and NPCs put a big point of emphasis now on the competitor experience, but also elevated payouts. I mean, again, that's something that you're talking about.
Yes, trying to put in more money, you know what I mean? The sponsors that sponsor, we take the money and we put it towards the prize money.
Yes.
You know what I mean? New York, the prize money was $145,000 this year. Between what we ran 9 divisions, you know what I mean? So it was a lot of prize money.
I know it's early, but do you think about what's next for the New York?
Always, yes.
Do you have anything that you can share with us?
The date's already planned, though. I mean, we're going to try to raise more money to up the prize money, and that's the biggest thing, more prize money.
So let's talk a little bit more about the show. Nick Walker becoming the first ever three-time winner of this show. I want to go back to last year, because universally regarded, and in his own words, not the best Nick Walker. He gets the win.
Right.
And, so much has happened since then. Obviously, he's missed the last 2 Olympias.
Right.
He's been such a flashpoint. I mean, obviously, there have been comments whether he can or cannot ever win the Olympia,
I think
what his
last
ceiling
week he
is.
proved that he can.
Right.
You know what I mean?
The last 2 weeks, Pittsburgh and New York, the attributes that you saw as compared to last year, what are you seeing out of him, and what makes you think he could stand with the likes of Derek Sampson and Hottie?
His condition and shape has changed. He's controlling his stomach. I honestly think when he first came out in Pittsburgh, he looked awesome. He was rock hard. I don't know what happened, if he ate something or just got nervous and started holding water, but as the show went on, he started holding water. I thought he looked great in New York, but I thought last week in Pittsburgh at the beginning was his all-time best.
Really?
Yes.
Pittsburgh prejudging, you would rank
that. Yeah, I had him winning.
Arnold Classic winning look.
Yes.
What, in terms of improvements, aside from the midsection, legs, back, because that was a point of emphasis.
Right, and his legs came up and his back came up. You know what? You could always have more sweep on your thigh. You could always have more density in your back. You know what I mean? It's not like always here, just control it. You need to get better all the time.
I also look at intangibles, right? The characteristics that Nick Walker brings not only to the bodybuilding sport, to the bodybuilding stage. You saw it. He comes out on stage.
He comes out with fire. He comes
fire.
Out, he's got a lot of personality.
This is my house. How good is that for this sport?
It's great. It's great. The more personality, the better it is. You don't want guys out there, you want guys full of passion, ready to explode, ready to go.
What would you say about Nick Walker, given really the firestorm of social media and so many of the negative comments that he's had to endure over the course of the last year and a half? Yeah, not only has he gotten better, he's still standing up there.
that shows you that he has a good frame of mind. He doesn't let that stuff get to him. But there's a lot of people out there that are just, I don't know, they just think they know what they're talking about, and they think right away. They look at someone and they decide. They don't realize that people get better. You know what I mean? And he is getting better. And look at Nick Walker 3 years ago and look at him today. There's no comparison.
You look ahead now to the Olympia, and the reason I bring that up is because you have someone like a Nick Walker, but then at that top level of the open class, I feel like you have so much variety in terms of height and shapes.
And that's what makes the show exciting, because I think the days of Ronnie Coleman winning 8 or Lee Haney winning 8, those days I think are kind of numbered. I think it's going to be hard to put a string together. I really think so.
Do you see that over all the different divisions?
Yes. Yeah. Look how competitive men's physique is. Look how competitive classic physique is. I mean, it's crazy. Look at men's physique. I mean, you've got a half a dozen guys that can win the Olympia or the Arnold.
Tyler Manning.
Or Pittsburgh.
Tyler Manning, brought up a great point in his recap of Pittsburgh, talking about how at this level, physiques change minute to minute. You talked about how
I said that all the time. That's why we had that pose down, because it was, we needed to make a winner. We were tied, and the pose down is what made it. And Nick was getting worse, and Derek came on, and that's what pulled it off. If we would have did it 10 minutes later, it might have been different. Let's
go back to that, because I felt like that was such an exciting moment, because you yourself as a judge, you were getting so into it. You're like, come on, guys,
I love it. I mean,
throw some elbows.
I don't mean throw some elbows. I mean, let it go. Don't throw no elbows.
What was that moment like for you? Again, really,
it's exciting. I mean, I love judging. I mean, it's it's.
But that moment in itself, essentially,
I love when something exciting like that, and I've got to make a decision, and it's hard. The judges did a great job.
No, absolutely. I feel like bodybuilding now, there's so much, again, what you mentioned, the fact that we might be past the days of the dynastic champion.
Yes.
And then when you look at someone like a Nick, and really sort of a comeback story, even though, yes, he competed last year, but he's missed the last 2 Olympias, and really rebounded in a way where going against a lot of the negative talk about him, and really, again, Nick Talker, addressing his midsection. I feel like, again, it speaks to his character and really speaks to, it's a good model that he set up for a lot of up-and-coming bodybuilders, in my opinion. So you look ahead now to the Olympia, and again, you talk about the likes of a Samson, of a Hadi. Samson, the defending champion, Hadi, Derek. Those are the 3 names that always comes out of everybody's mouth. Then the question is, who else has an opportunity to disrupt?
I think Nick is right in there.
Yeah.
I think if Martin doesn't come in big and comes in hard, he's right in there. If Andrew Jack could put it together, he's right in there. I mean, you got a half a dozen guys right there that could actually do damage.
Let's go back to Martin, because Martin was such an interesting wild card coming into Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he came in too big. I think he played the size game and it hurt him.
Do you feel as if now a lot more competitors are either realizing what their strengths are and maybe playing more to it, or trying to maybe play away from it? Like Martin, in your words, tried to play the size game.
Yes.
In your opinion, what's his best look?
His look is what he looked like last year at the Olympia. From there maybe he could put another 5 pounds or 6 or 7 pounds of muscle on throughout the year and get a little bigger. But he's not a mass monster. He's a guy with great shape, in great condition. A couple of years down the line, it could be 10 or 15 pounds. You know what I mean? But you're not going to put 20 or 30 pounds on in a year.
My question to you is this, from a judging perspective, because again, we talk about, shape, symmetry, size. Where does conditioning fit into that? Because I feel like, again, with the variety that you have at the top of the, with the open class now, you are going to have so many different variables. How does this all come together?
Condition is very important. Condition is as important as shape and size. Not one is any important than the other. If you could have great shape and great size, but be off in your condition, you're not going to do well. I mean, you've seen it with Samson sometimes when he comes in soft. Samson has great shape, but if he's not on, he doesn't do well.
What would you like to see out of a Hadi Chupon who's taking essentially the year off to compete straight to the Olympia?
Honestly, I just, he's short, so I like to see even more sweep on his thigh and more width on his back and more cap on his delts. That's what I'd like to see out of him, because he's as dangerous as any of those guys. He gets rock hard. His conditioning is never a question.
Derek, from the Arnold to the Pittsburgh, the snapshot that you saw, what would you like to see out of him maybe different at the Olympia?
He has to look more like he looked at the Arnold. His legs kind of, faded away at Pittsburgh, and he's really lucky he got in better condition for that pose down, because he was going to lose to Nick. It was really Nick show all morning, and then Nick kind of in the afternoon got soft, and Derek started coming on. But Derek's got to watch the size on his front thigh.
Samson Dauda, Mr. Olympia, what, in your opinion, is the best look for a Samson Dauda?
He has great shape and he has great muscle. He has to be in excellent condition.
Andrew Jacked, I feel like we talk about wild cards.
Right, he's a wild card if you could ever put it together. But I'd like to see more legs on him, especially.
Saw Classic Physique the last 2 weeks. We saw the return of Terrence Ruffin, who took a year off from the stage.
Yes.
And, we talk about a vacated Olympia title and really so many players that could fill that void. Mike Sommerfeld, runner-up last Olympia, winning the Arnold Classic. Then you have Terrence, who looked absolutely phenomenal and held off truly one of the top young stars in Jose Manuel
shape.
Munoz.
Yeah, Jose, unbelievable.
What do you see in that 1 year off from Terrence?
I see a lot of guys came to try to replace him, and they're going to do that. He's got to watch his back because there are guys that are very good that are right behind him that are looking to overtake him.
But what did you rate as far as what you saw out of him after 1 year off the stage for Terrence?
Honestly, I felt he was a little soft in Pittsburgh. He got better in New York. I think it was good he did these shows. He probably maybe should even do another show to really dial in his conditioning. Unbelievable shape, better conditioning.
Jose Manuel Munoz, when we talk about conditioning.
I think, we were talking about his condition is awesome. He could work maybe more on his sweep and more on his width. But I think we were also talking, he could present himself better. Sometimes you could have a sweep and not show it properly. I think he needs to work on his posing too. Posing is just as important as everything else. You could have a great body and not show it to his best ability, and we can only judge what we see.
Right.
So if we're not seeing a sweep on a thigh, or if you're not opening up your back, we have to judge what you present.
Right.
So I think he needs to work on his posing.
Let me ask you something, because I think this has been a point of debate amongst bodybuilder fans as far as criteria and the ideal look of classic physique.
Right.
From a judging perspective, if you had to write it on paper, what would you say is the criteria for classic physique?
Beautiful shape, great lines, great condition, and great muscularity. Beautiful shape and lines is very important.
You look at someone like Mike Sommerfeld, again, we talk about the open class, same
Mike
thing in
Sommerfeld
classic
has
physique.
beautiful shape and beautiful lines.
You have, again, variety at that top in terms of... Classic physique has always had sort of that variety in terms of the different types of
You just don't have the crazy mass, which is, a lot of people don't like that, and that's why we have that division.
See someone like Orz.
Orz right now, in my opinion, doesn't know if he wants to be a bodybuilder or a classic physique guy. I saw him, he was huge. He was here all week. He was huge. But yet he still had abdominals, he still had separation in his thighs. I mean, he's got to pick one or the other, because just sitting in the middle I don't think is good.
What would you like to see out of someone like Ramon? Ramon, who again
conditioning. That's a guy that always misses his peak. I'd like to see better conditioning out of him.
Is there anyone who we haven't seen in the top 5, top 6 that you see?
You know what? There are guys that are that are 12, 11 that one day could shock us, and if they would, doesn't matter if they were 12 for 5 years.
Yeah.
If they come in shape, they're going to move right up. You know what I mean? It's not that. People have this also misconception that what you did in your last show matters for the next show. It doesn't matter.
Right.
You could win 5 shows in a row and a 6th show be off and lose. We don't go by what happened yesterday or tomorrow. It's what's happening at that moment. Not potential, what's going on.
What made Logan Franklin so great this past Arnold Classic?
His conditioning was amazing. Put a little more shape in him and he's, oh my God. A little more back on that guy. That was the best he ever looked, in my opinion.
Another name that's really risen up the ranks over the last couple of years, and that's Matt Grego, top 10 of this past
Matt
Olympia.
Grego's condition is sick. Sick. He proved that, you could be a guy in the middle and all of a sudden be a top contender, and he's a top contender. Excellent condition, excellent shape.
I look at the men's physique division, and then again, you talk about the parity at the top. Ryan Terry, 2-time Olympia title holder. Then you have Ali Bilal. Right now, you have to say is his top threat. But then, funny thing happens.
What about Brandon?
Right, that's all I was just going to say. Aaron Banks in Pittsburgh. Brandon, disappointing result, finishing 4th. He comes back guns blazing this past weekend at the New York Pro. And it signals to me that, he's all the way back. There's
going to be 6 guys there that are going to really give trouble for that title. There's no favorite going into that title. I don't care that Ryan won it twice or Ali won the Arnold. It doesn't matter. Who is in shape that day is what matters.
I have to ask you only because, again, we talk about points of controversy. We talk about the shorts. Now, judging criteria, the legs are not counted in men's physique, but you've
No.
seen the shorts come up and up and up, and you've seen
Honestly,
the legs.
it doesn't matter to me. I mean, when they're really tight, I think it looks ridiculous. I think it should be fitting. You know, it doesn't need to be body grabbing.
Right.
But like you said, we don't judge it, so it doesn't matter.
Do you look at size, overall sheer size? I look at someone like an Ed Von Palmera, profiles as, you know, truly one of the bigger men's physique competitors. Does size come into play, or is men's physique still just purely about symmetry?
Well, I mean, you have two guys that are equal.
Yeah.
Same conditioning, same shape. If one guy looks a little better with more size, he's going to win. Sometimes you don't need a lot of size or a little more size to look good. You can look good with less size. So it really doesn't matter. Whatever fits your body. If you need more muscle for that body,
right,
and you could fit it in the cap of the weight, go for it. You know what I mean? But that division is not a mass division. It's a shape division.
What excites you most when you think 4.5 months ahead to the Olympia?
Not knowing the unknown. That's what I like. I like, you know, the days of walking in there thinking, oh, you know what, who's going to beat Ronnie, or who's going to beat Lee, or who's going to beat Dorian. You know, those days are gone. It's who is going to look unbelievable.
I'm sorry, I skipped over Division 212. And the reason I'm bringing this up, you had one perennial powerhouse this past weekend in Angel Calderon, and then you have truly one of the up-and-comers out of Brazil in Francisco Barrios Buc.
Yes.
You know, I saw him at the Texas Pro last year, and my first observation is packs on a lot of muscle in that frame.
Great shape, little waist.
Very well,
yes. Yeah. Little waist, great shape, great condition. He was here all week training. I mean, I knew he was going to be dangerous because they were both in here training. You know what I mean? That's where Calderon could have came in a little smaller and a little harder. I think he came in a little too big, in my opinion.
I look at Keon Pearson, and again, we always have this conversation about the top of the 212 and how the top of the 212, and I feel like this conversation started with Flex Lewis about 8-9 years ago.
Right. How
would they fare in the open class? You look at Keon Pearson, and
I think he'd be great in the open class. I think he'd be a dangerous competitor in the open class.
Would you like for him to compete another year or two in 212, or as a bodybuilding lifer, as a fan, would you like to see him in the next year or so exit the open class?
Doesn't matter to me, honestly. Whatever you know what I mean. I'm happy to judge him in either division. I'm not looking forward to him being in the open, and I'm not looking forward to him leaving the 212. I'm fine either way.
What qualities does he bring to the stage that makes
beautiful
him so
shape
special?
And a lot of muscle. A lot of muscle on that frame. And that's why he'll be dangerous in the open if and when he decides to do the open. And the way he's talking, it looks like he's going to, you know, which is exciting. I mean, look at how many 212s we got that moved up to even win the Olympia. Whoever thought a 212 would win the Olympia? You know, we had it twice, you know.
I have to ask only because I know the Iranian fans are going to be irate if I don't ask you about this guy. Behrouz Tabani now, unfortunately,
Awesome.
3 years in a row, Olympia qualified, yet not getting a visa.
That's a shame, though. I wish they could straighten that out. I really wish they could straighten that out. It's not fair, really. He deserves to be on an Olympia stage, and somehow, maybe with Trump or whatever, they could work this out. You know what I mean? It's a different, you know, a different team in charge. Maybe it won't be as rough. I don't know.
You saw him last year at the Dubai Pro.
Awesome.
What did you see out of him?
I see everything that a bodybuilder should be, and I believe he's doing the Dubai Pro again this year.
Yeah.
He is one dangerous cat.
Well, Steve Weinberger, appreciate the time. Appreciate
Anytime.
everything that you do for the sport of bodybuilding, for
I
the
love
fans,
doing
for the
it.
competitors. And really, just keep up everything that you're doing with this gym.
Thank you.
I am a personal beneficiary of everything that you do.
Happy to have you here.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Anytime.
Steve Weinberger, head judge of the IFBB, the owner of Bev's Gym, the promoter of the New York Pro. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already done so, subscribe below. Hit the notification bell. You're not going to miss anything that we have up and coming over the course of this IFBB Pro contest. For Steve Weinberger, I'm Siddique Farooqi. Thanks for watching.